Hello and welcome to this week's episode of PolitiBabble, Breaking It Down. I'm Sam Rowe, and today I'm joined by
Archibald Elliott.
And Brisha Shaw.
And today we're going to be breaking down the political spectrum.
Nearly forgot to say my own name there.
I mean, you know what? We haven't been breaking down forever. There was a moment and I was just like, I just won't say it, but yeah.
I thought we were going like Sam to me then.
I know,
And then
yeah.
I was
It's,
like,
it's
oh,
confusing,
oh no.
confusing.
Recovered it masterfully
Yes.
though. And
Yeah.
I'm sure the
No one
listeners
needs
can't
to
tell.
know.
Yeah.
I know, as
And the
usually
great thing
professional
is-
you are, you don't hear this part. This is all the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Feels
this is-
special.
This is going to be edited out, definitely. If
Yeah,
you're listening
yeah,
to
of
this,
course.
you're one of the special few
Yeah.
who's gotten an extra bonus.
Brucey bonus.
I know,
Or
yeah.
Or a
Yes.
Boris bonus, as we should call it.
Beautiful blue bonus.
Yes. Very good.
Um,
So this week, yeah, as Sam mentioned, we're going to be breaking down the political spectrum.
spectrum.
And we're supposed to have some trumpets there, but yeah, we
Brisha, why did you not come in
yeah,
with a
come on,
trumpet?
Brisha.
God damn it.
I left my trumpet at home, my apologies.
Oh, good enough. Yeah, but I suppose that you could play it at home and probably still hear it here.
Yes.
Trumpet section, after all, is loud.
Yes.
Yes.
Lovely anecdote from Archie there. So we'll just dive right in.
Yeah.
The political spectrum refers to a range of political positions or opinions that exist from the progressive left wing to the conservative right wing.
Where obviously it's right to be right wing.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
my far take on that. We'll come into that later.
Your
yeah,
far right take on that.
Oh no, this may be the last episode of PolitiBabble. So
If
make
you
the
find
most
me
of
in a
it.
ditch, you know these two.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what happens to right wing people.
Yes.
Definitely not far right people. I should
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Apologies, Archie.
But interestingly, the use of this kind of left wing and right wing terminology came about in the not 1970s, the 1700s and 1789 during the French Revolution, when the revolutionary side sat to the left of the French National Assembly, their parliament, and their aristocracy favouring counterparts sat on the right, and centre seats then became associated with more moderate political views.
Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those bloody French.
Yeah, how dare you give us the foundation of our political system, you bastard!
And then there's and then newspapers. Obviously, that was just an outtake there. That is not our view, and obviously.
No, it was a joke because obviously
Yes.
the French Revolution and indeed France forms the foundation for most
Everything.
things good and
And
democracy in the
obviously,
world.
these two, if you haven't heard our revolution episode, support that revolution. Vive la revolution.
I mean,
Revolution.
whether you
sorry.
support the revolution or not, much of Western democracy is based on
Yes,
what was
yeah.
produced by it. So it's kind of instrumental to much of the freedom we have
So
The only
today.
solution is revolution.
So you see there, the French having more impact on our politics today, and actually French newspapers, which began identifying the socially liberal politicians as the left, and those traditional, maybe more authoritarian political politicians as the right. So it's actually
Yes.
the media came to a big play in creating these terms we just treat as modern day life now.
Yeah.
So nothing's changed.
No, nothing's changed. Nothing's
It's still
changed.
exactly the same.
The media decides who wins elections, of course.
Yes,
Of course, you know,
of course,
nothing
of
to do.
course.
You know,
Nothing to do with
nothing to do with the
votes.
number of votes.
And kind of that. Continue on my spiel here. That spread of democracy helped the left and right continuum, which kind of became known as the political spectrum we're going to be discussing today.
Yes.
And I think its earliest instances in print actually was in the Southern Trade magazine in 1857. Some historical facts there.
Fun
for you.
little fact for you there. We obviously encourage you to research into that on your own more.
Because it's fascinating history, and you know we could spend probably a few days talking about that history.
I'm going to
here.
say 15 minutes, but yeah.
Yes.
But yes.
Yes.
No, so
Yeah.
go look
Yes.
into it. It's interesting.
Yes.
The famous political compass test, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I feel the type of person who I assume is listening to this has probably already taken the test.
Yes.
But if you
If
haven't,
not, go take it.
yeah, a
It's
few
just
things.
like politicalcompass.org or
Yes,
something,
it
isn't it?
is.
Yeah. One thing to bear in mind is that it's a generalization.
Yeah.
It's something like the political spectrum is immensely complex. So if
Mm.
you're not exactly where you thought you are, it can either mean maybe you've been identifying with the wrong politics, but sometimes the test isn't spot on. So Don't stress yourself over that.
There are also some like very blunt questions that are just like,
A lot of the questions are,
do you hate people?
Some of the questions are like, do you think the rich are too highly taxed, or
Yes.
No.
should we? Okay, Archie. Okay, Boomer. Or do
Crikey,
you think
Sam, I've attacked it. I'm now a parent
Taxed.
Or to
baby
be-
boomer.
to to bring it back more into Archie's territory? Do you think climate change is real? Those sorts
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
questions.
Unfortunately, that's not a question on it.
No, but there are
Okay.
environmental
Yeah,
questions
there
on
are
there.
like climate questions on there. But yeah,
Um,
take the political compass test.
Yeah.
Another little fun fact, because Archie didn't read it out. In the late 1800s, political spectrum. Oh wait, did you read that out?
No.
I'm going to read that out. Political spectrum cropped up in the long-running weekly magazine The Nation in 1870, showing its spread into popular press. By the
Oh.
early 1900s, the term political spectrum, as well as
That's
the
how it's
term
pronounced.
left, right, and centre, had joined the public vernacular.
Vernacular. Yeah. Just means
I
the
know,
vocabulary or
Had-
language.
Oh wait, to discuss the array of political positions in government and society. Can you tell I'm not wearing my glasses?
Yeah, it's. Look, we've all been there.
How have we?
No,
I only
Uh,
just don't. I don't see the right colours, but you know.
Yeah.
I
Do you know,
detest
this is
Archie's
very
colour
much
blindness has become a
Stop
regular
it.
feature on this show.
But can I just quickly talk about something? I was discussing this earlier today as well, but like,
Oh, please.
do you know what's so crazy is the fact that like I'm wearing a what I would call red jumper, but
I know
what
you're
if
gonna
like
say.
what if like Sam sees it as like a different
What,
shade?
what if I see your red as blue, and what
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
see my blue as red,
This
or
is
something like that?
I like get so tripped out by this.
Anyway,
and I think about it all the time, and I just want an answer, please.
Speaking of, if anyone has an answer, message us in. No, in fact, don't message us. We don't need that in our lives. Message Brisha.
Brisha.
Um,
Bombard her
ground.
with messages, please.
on the subject of different perspectives, our ideological perspectives, our
Mhm.
political ones. How did we fare on that test?
Well, obviously, you know me. I fell right into that left libertarian quadrant, right at that bottom.
Archie is a
bottom-
comrade
Yes,
through and through. We
comrade,
love to
yes.
see it.
No. I fall quite. It's actually quite close to that central line.
Yeah.
On the right, quite a bit.
Right side,
Five
top right
blocks
quarter.
right.
I'm imagining, yeah.
5 blocks right in like that middle. Yeah,
Okay.
sort of.
Yeah?
Yeah, actually falling slightly libertarian. It's like ever so. I'm like on that line. It's
Ooh.
quite. I have a mix between those two. views.
Archie's,
Yeah.
it's
Down.
centre ground in every sense.
but not centre within the middle.
No,
spectrum.
don't
worry.
Yeah, it's conservative all the way. Yeah.
Nice.
What about you, Brisha? There we are.
I'm trying to find it now because I remember for politics, Miss was like, "Hey guys, take the political compass test."
Yeah.
Um,
And then
So-
the idea being is at the end of the course, we take it again and see where we've changed, which is actually
yeah.
it's a really good. I
Oh.
think it's a good thing for you to do if you're looking to kind of track your political beliefs. Is say give yourself a year, take the test, year passes, and take it again because it can
Why-
be interesting how.
And
Why-
interestingly, my views have actually increased ever so slightly right.
Really?
Interesting. Yeah,
That's
it's
really
interesting. Yeah.
I
I have a document in my drive called "Letter to Maggie."
Anyway, We're not going to go into that. What's on Brisha's drive is her business.
It's
and
from,
stays on her drive.
Yeah.
It's from when we were studying an inspector calls, and we had
Oh,
to
okay.
like pretend to write a letter to the prime
Don't we
minister.
just love doing English? Sorry, Sam. We know you do English.
I do
Um,
English, and
I
it's a
cannot
lot of fun.
find my political compass.
Anyway,
thing, but
Well, while you look, I'll go over mine.
Yeah.
yeah, all about
You
You
Sam.
take over, Sam.
When we first started the podcast, I'd actually recently taken the test, and I was very, very, very kind of bottom left, socialist libertarian. In that
Communist.
sort of,
Yeah.
I think the kind
all
of
around that side.
around the sort of anarcho-communist, anarcho-syndicalist zone near the bottom.
Yeah.
What's happened more recently, the last time I took the test, is that I'm still kind of left to the same extent, but I have risen slightly.
We've
I'm
got
still-
him back to where he should be.
I will say I'm still very much in the bottom left quarter, but I'm not, and it was interesting because I've never been an anarchist, so it was. Sorry,
Wait,
Brisha.
I'm comparing him.
Ever so slightly.
But I'm getting
yeah.
him back up to authority.
Yes,
I mean,
I'm like very
dictatorship.
much in like the middle, which you know what? Not like the center, but the middle of
is a-
the bottom left
Interesting.
thing,
Which is surprising for
Yeah.
an anarchist, but
Yes. I think it's because there were ones that, like, I was just like, I don't have very strong opinions on this.
yeah.
And I feel like with the political compass test that, like, we all took, you have to have, like, very much strong opinions. But there were things that I just didn't know enough about to be like, I have very strong opinions on this.
And
So,
that's kind of the serious flaw with it.
Yeah.
We don't obviously rely on it fully. It's quite
No.
it can be quite leading questions. It's just very interesting. It's very interesting to see. And as Bruce's point proves, you can have kind of a mix and a variety of political opinions which can
Yeah.
differ. Or you might have an opinion on something.
Yeah.
It's not mutually exclusive.
And
Yeah.
never feel bound to a singular ideological tenet. If like, 'cause, you
Yeah.
know, if there are parts of an ideology you agree with, it doesn't mean you have to agree with every single
Yeah.
aspect.
Of course.
If in fact, if you ever find yourself unwilling to question or critique parts of your own ideology,
that's a bit.
you're in a dodgy place.
But we've been talking about this left wing, right wing. But what does it all mean? What is left wing?
What is left wing?
Archie, what is left?
Anyone?
We've come
anyone
back to
else?
me.
No, it's
Runs
okay.
To the
I'll
document.
I'll take this one as
Okay.
As our resident,
as well, yeah,
well,
as
not
a left wing,
you're both the resident leftists.
as the first one who got the page up. So those on the left strive for equal society and believe that the government should play it's written here, large part in people's lives. I'll say larger part in people's lives because again, it varies among the lefts. These are all going to
very
be
much so. Yeah.
these are all going to be very generalized statements. It's impossible to avoid that. Please don't send us angry emails. A larger part in people's lives in order to achieve this. It's often referred to, mainly in American politics, as big government. Grr. Socialism is when the government does stuff, am I
Brr.
right?
Boo.
How
Thank
dare
you,
the
Archie.
government do things?
Those on the left tend to support higher taxes on the rich, outrageous, welfare for the poor, and government regulation on business. This can also mean taking an interventionist approach towards economics, where the government will step in to prevent, for example, a recession. And that kind of sums it up. They tend to have higher spending levels, which is, again, kind of leads to higher tax. It's all part of the same cycle. And left-wing people, not always, but they do tend to be socially as well considerably more progressive. I think that's a fair statement, certainly in British and American politics.
Well, interesting, because the political compass we can only describe in words, because we don't have, unfortunately, beautiful imagery with
Visual aid.
Visual aids. But it's divided into four quadrants, so you always have that more authoritarian side of both, and more liberal progressive. So we have, like, on the right, we support the fight for equal rights. We support the fights.
But
for
again, I would say
progressive.
it's.
I believe that if everyone is inferior to
You.
hot takes-
The
I
supreme
w-
overlord,
Yes,
Archie
of
Elliott.
course, of course,
I would,
of course.
And again, I'd put out there are people on the right who equally, I think this is a fair state. Probably, I think it's a more prevalent issue with the right.
Yeah.
Who don't necessarily think that. Who think there are, that's a fact of life.
Then we have maybe tolerance of political debate varies on both sides as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
There are
'Cause here we are having a kind of quite a relaxed discussion with,
Yeah.
I'd say, very contrasting political reviews, and we're not
We're
strangling-
all the
we're not
same
killing
here.
each other.
Not yet.
So yeah, We're
Tune
all
in
fe-
next
we're all-
time.
We're all fairy comrades.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy comrades.
Yes.
A happy comrade is a happy life.
That's
Yes. Oh dear.
that's what they told me in the commune.
Yeah.
I mean nothing.
The
What's-
right wing.
right wing. Archie, take the right wing.
Yes. Well, those on the right,
Oh, okay.
which is the correct. I'm joking. The right opinion. Those on the right believe that a certain level of social inequality is unavoidable, and I'm sure we'd probably all agree there's always going to be some form of inequality.
Well, I think
However small, there will always be some form.
it depends. I think on. Yeah, I guess I'm sure there are plenty of people. And again, I don't want to generalize who believe a utopia-like society is possible. I don't want to
No.
say everyone on either side holds any one view. It's
No,
kind of-
but
I'm dodging
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But
He's
but
being a typical politician there.
Dodging the
Slimy.
question. Yes.
But they also believe that the government should play a more limited role in people's lives. It's not there. It's just a more limited, so kind of a smaller government than the left wing.
and again,
just
bear
don't
in
have a
mind, you can be
government.
if you're right wing but very authoritarian.
Then you
that-
want a big government.
you want a big government.
Yeah.
So there are variations of every kind possible.
This is just the generalization view of it, and they tend to support a more trying to pronounce this. I use it quite a bit anyway in writing, but it's a laissez-faire.
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 I'm not. I didn't do French. I did Spanish.
Another French word.
yes.
Interesting how much France has influenced modern democracy.
So
Thank
they
you, France.
have a laissez-faire approach to the economy, which in French,
Oh, no.
which is French, so it roughly translates as "leave things alone."
Yeah.
So
Relax.
it's having lower government intervention, lower taxes on business, and that less business regulation, lower taxes. I also believe, and the right wing tend to believe, will help them to grow. In other words, if we don't interfere with kind of that business and we leave it to the market to its own devices, it's better for the economy. But obviously, we have differences there. I believe there does need to be environmental regulation
Sure.
because the free market's proven not to regulate itself in that aspect. And government can lead kind of the best practice. But overall, it should be a smaller aspect, as maybe you two would believe.
Yeah, and again, it's. I think that's something we'll all agree on. We all agree that there needs to be environmental regulation, and
Yeah.
that doesn't stop Archie being right wing, and it doesn't make
Yeah.
us inherently more left wing. It is.
One
It's
thing,
just. To be honest, at that stage, I would argue it's really
Yeah.
just understanding science and
Well,
understanding the current.
there's certain things which have to come above maybe your desire for eternal growth,
Yeah.
because if we don't solve climate change, you don't have eternal growth, you don't have an economy. So what's the point of having lower regulation if you then in 50 years it's pointless even having any form of regulation anyway,
Yeah.
because there's nothing left.
I mean, if the climate crisis isn't tackled, there isn't really much point to anything at
this
all.
is, this
Exactly.
is this little fun fact. I know I should have saved it for the newscast, but the government have said they don't want to make any more petrol or diesel cars by 2030.
I think that will remain a fact, and that's again another form of government regulation.
Yeah.
Yes. You
So-
can hear more about that in our newscast.
Yes,
we will
go
be
check us
discussing it
out.
in detail.
Cheap
Just
plug.
next.
Oh.
Yeah.
Look at us plugging ourselves. Anyway,
We will
Um,
always plug ourselves.
But then if you
No
go
one
in within
else.
progressive and conservative views, if you want to
Yeah.
generalise it, the left tend to, as Sam said, be more progressive, which means they often favour social change or reform. And typical example is supporting same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
But obviously that view is held by many on the right at the same
And,
time.
I mean, typically what happens is a good way to imagine this is one side pushing forward, the other one trying to hold its place.
Yeah.
So when same-sex marriage, which is now widely regarded in, let's say, Europe as
Yeah.
a fundamental human right, when that became mainstream, which was brought in by the left, many conservatives brought that into their own ideology. But then again, they
But there's always differences, and there's
maintain.
people in the left who think it's still a problem. There's always a difference.
there's always I would say I don't think in the left there really is. The left very much
No,
focuses
yes.
on
Yeah.
equality, so it's a bit.
But then on the
Different.
right, there's also more traditional views like being in favour of the monarchy, which is, I
Yeah.
think, a beautiful thing to do.
Anyway.
Which is going to our views.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
some people have who introduce themselves and they'll be like, I'm an anarcho-monarchist, and I just
Those they make no sense. But you can check
No.
that out in the
In-
next couple of weeks. We're going to be going through some ideologies,
it's
and you'll hear some crazy ones probably.
Yeah.
yeah.
but-
Well, we should. I think that would be fun if we look up the most insane.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, you
weird
can have some wacky
ideologies.
ones out there.
There's some
Um,
quirks. Yeah.
Social conservatism.
But then if you want- If you want to associate,
Conservative.
if you want to associate this political spectrum maybe with stuff you maybe know, like political parties, I'm sure you
Yes.
listeners, you'll have heard many in the news. We have done the Labour Party in the UK, the Green Party. You might disagree on this one, but the Democrats in America,
Yeah.
the Socialist Party in France, are all described as often being left-wing.
Yeah, and again,
We'll come into that as
Which
well. There's a
is
difference between
crucial.
what constitutes left and right. It's all kind of a scale between association.
yeah.
Because if I'm right-wing, someone even slightly left is left-wing. And if you're far left-wing, me being ever so slightly ever on the right is far right. Because there's that
think-
kind
yeah.
of...
Yeah.
It is all relative.
To put it into perspective, if you're a regular listener, if Archie went to America, he'd probably be considered
Very... Either...
moderate left, I would
Yeah.
say.
yeah, well, yeah.
Well, that's
if,
the
if
thing.
I say... Yeah, you don't know.
Which
You
is
don't know.
and again, it would depend on
Yeah.
the region of America. If he was in
Yeah.
New York, probably not. If he was in,
Yeah.
if he rocked down to Dallas or something, they'd probably be like communist.
Yeah.
You know, it's that's
even
an
though
overgeneralization.
obviously
America's
I'm nowhere near communist.
Crazy place.
Yeah, and then the
if you
right-wing
haven't
parties.
guessed.
we're
we
rooting
have-
for you.
the right-wing parties. We have maybe like the Conservative Party in the UK, of
Yeah.
which I'm a member. A very There we are.
Why am I clapping?
Yes.
Ooh.
Thank you for clapping, Sam. I'm
Archie
glad
can
you.
have his
glad
own
you supported it.
interests. outside
UKIP, which is
podcasts.
which is maybe a more far right party, as
Yeah,
we'll
are they still a
come
thing?
into. Yeah.
Reform UK.
Yes, Reform UK. No, that's Brexit Party's change.
Oh, yeah,
But
of
we'll
course.
come into those political parties within our ideologies. The Republican Party in the US and the Law and Justice Party of Poland, which are all currently in the news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would also say, because we briefly mentioned, if there's something you want to actively look into right now, a good example of actually witnessing ideological shifts within parties would be in the Labour Party. We'll discuss that
Yes.
more, but go look
That's
into it.
newscast, because
Yeah, yeah,
you'll
yeah.
hear a lot about that from the recent
But
debacle.
Because it's
happening.
always interesting to see political shifts going on in parties. So
go check
go
out
investigate
Newscast
that
3.
yourself.
Newscast 3 for you.
Sure.
But as Sam said before, it's worth keeping in mind that those terms left and right are quite loosely used, because many of the UK Labour Party's policies place it in the centre of the political spectrum, or even kind of slightly right of centre if you look at some of maybe New Labour, which is kind of when Blair was in power. And then if you look at the US, the Democrat and Republican Party might be viewed as right-wing in the UK
Yeah.
because of that difference. It's all very relative.
Yeah.
So it's always worth checking the party's manifesto before making up your mind who to vote. We're not giving you
Yeah.
left wing. If you're left wing, you should vote this. Look at that manifesto and use your democratic right to vote.
Yes,
Yes.
that is all we can
Always
suggest.
vote, please.
And always make sure of the perspective the news source or media outlet is from.
Yeah.
Like, don't assume that it matches with your the setting that you're most familiar with, because
Yeah.
it could be a radically different perspective.
Check out the Daily Mail for the most up-to-date and most reliable stories.
I think
Sun.
Archie has just destroyed his credibility in one
that
sentence.
was a entire joke there. Or you can check out the Sun. That's
The
always
Sun.
always a good bet.
Yeah.
Daily
Star.
Express, Daily Star. Yeah.
Daily Express. Can I say Daily Express, my least favorite?
These are
newspaper.
all my. Just don't read it.
Don't. It's
You know,
Financial
this is-
Times, good.
yeah.
this is a bit of off topic, but you can always tell how good a newspaper is by the paper they actually use and how easy it is to fold. Because the Sun and the the Daily Mail paper's it's all right. You know, they're a drunk in a
How
in a
thick
pub.
it is, basically.
Yeah. Well, like,
Thick the
but
paper
the
is.
the Daily Star and the Sun, their news, like the paper they use is so bad.
I think, yeah, and also, not calling out any newspapers in particular, but if it has a crusader on the front page, maybe don't. That's my suggestion.
Just don't.
Yeah, just don't. No power to that.
Period.
Mm.
Don't.
But if you look at the Financial Times, my favourite newspaper is nice thick cream paper, and it's kind of quite nice to read and look at, I think. Nice layout. Nice layout, guys, I think.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. I like it's very long, the Financial Times, full of information.
It is. I must say, it's easy to read at a table. It's not because it's broadsheet, which is kind of their traditional
I can
newspaper
see it
style.
already. Archie with his Financial Times, cup of tea, bit of Victoria
I
sponge.
have to bring one in. Oh, yeah.
What are we talking about?
I know.
What
I
is
know.
going?
Yeah.
Listeners, I apologise that we're talking about the thickness of newspapers. I'm so sorry.
But we've
It
run
do
out.
be kind of thick,
We've
though.
Run out of time.
We've run out of things
was
to
too
say.
thick.
Actually, I know it's too thick. We've talked about too much, but we're going to be breaking down some ideologies in the next
Yes,
two
this is
couple
going
of
to be a
episodes.
sneaky
Yes.
two-parter. So
Yeah.
listen out for that, and go check out our
Newscast.
newscast.
It's just over there. Well, I'm pointing just over there. It will be recorded soon,
Yeah.
and it'll be on Newscast 3, all about what on earth is going on.
Hugs and kisses.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful night.
Join us
You've
next
been-
time for breaking down conservatism, socialism, and moving on to liberalism and then centrism.
You've been PolitiBabbled.
Bye.
Bye.